Hello, and welcome to Homeowner AF, the Canadian first-time homebuying podcast. I'm Brianna Goslin, mortgage agent level 2, and I work with Canadian first-time homebuyers every single day. If you want to own real estate in Canada but aren't sure how to position yourself to get there, this is the podcast for you. I want to see more young Canadians in the market, building equity and long-term wealth. That starts with getting the right advice at the right time, so you're positioned to act when it matters. Each week, I'll bring you bite-sized episodes that actually move the needle toward homeownership. Short, strategic, and packed with practical tips that you can use right away. I'll cover topics like minimum down payment, closing costs, credit, cosigners, and more. Remember, your finances are like a thumbprint. No two are the same. For advice tailored specifically to you, book your free call at briecallme.com. Now, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Homeowner AF. Today, we are talking about one of my most asked questions. What is the difference between a cosigner and a guarantor? And which one is going to be most appropriate for me when I buy my first home? Now, this is a super loaded question, and there are some considerations that I'm going to flag for you that you should be making even before you decide in what capacity this person is going to help you out with your home purchase, whether it be a guarantor or a cosigner situation. So, first things first, when we are purchasing a home, we want to make sure that even if we're bringing on a cosigner or a guarantor onto our mortgage application, I really want you to question why. Why are you doing this? Because when we add somebody else to the mortgage application, we're using their income to qualify your file. We're also putting their debts on file, so you become one and the same in the eyes of the lender. All of the debts that they are currently paying off, be it mortgage, car loan, personal loan, anything else they've co-signed for is going to come onto your application. So we're going to have to make sure that we have enough income to cover those repayments. And their income, of course, will also come on the application, which usually strengthens the position of that single borrower who needs the cosigner. I ask why you want to put a cosigner onto the application because usually, the person who is purchasing the home is the person who will ultimately be paying that mortgage payment monthly or biweekly or weekly, whatever you decide is best for you. And the other person is coming on in good faith to help you qualify for the mortgage. They will help out if need be, but typically the agreement is that the buyer will be paying this mortgage payment. There are some great reasons to add a cosigner onto your mortgage file, and I'll list some of them right now that are typical for my clients. So a big one is when you are a business owner and you are claiming your income conservatively on your taxes after write-offs. So you do make enough money to service that mortgage payment, but your income taxes are not showing the same story. In this case, it could make a lot of sense to have your mom or your dad or another immediate family member co-sign for you, because then they can use their taxable income, whether it be pension or employment income, and they can strengthen your file that way, even though you know you are making enough money to absolutely cover that mortgage payment. And this is another reason why we always plan from the perspective of a monthly or biweekly mortgage payment instead of what your maximum purchase price is, because those two numbers could be very different when we really get into the dollars and cents of it all, right? The other instance where it makes sense to add a cosigner or a guarantor is because the job market is the way it is in 2026. I'm recording this at the end of May 2026. So people are often changing jobs, even if these are great jobs, even if these are salaried jobs with a pension, they often come with a certain type of probation. So this is sometimes a 3-month probationary period. Sometimes it could be up to 9 months. And this is where your employer is saying, yes, you have the job, but it is not guaranteed until we pass this probationary period. So A lender cannot lend you a mortgage on your home until that probationary period is passed. So for folks who have brand new employment and they have great income, we just can't get past that probationary period before purchasing. That is another case where a cosigner is absolutely advantageous because we know, of course, that the income is there. You can earn the income. You can cover that mortgage payment as well as the incidentals of owning a home. But we just need a little bit more time before we can prove it on paper the way the lender wants it. So these are two very popular instances where we put a cosigner on the application with the expectation that at that first renewal, we will be taking them off of the mortgage. And I will talk a little bit about that later, about what that will look like at the 5-year mark or 3-year mark, or whenever you are planning to take the cosigner off title. All right, so those are two instances where it makes sense to have a cosigner. When does it not make sense to have a cosigner? So it's 2026, and I understand that a lot of home buyers are finding it difficult to qualify for the purchase price that they want. And it doesn't always make sense to add mom or dad onto your mortgage application as a cosigner unless you can actually afford that home. And when I say afford that home, I mean over and above the mortgage payment. Can you afford the monthly cost of life insurance or term insurance, whatever you've taken to cover that mortgage loan amount? Can you also cover the cost of repairs and incidentals should something happen within the home? So those are all things that you need to be taking into consideration when you're thinking of purchasing your home, and specifically when you're thinking of bumping up that purchase price by employing a cosigner or adding a cosigner to your application. If your budget is tight when you're renting and your rent is comparable to what you will be paying in a mortgage payment, then I do not suggest adding a cosigner to be able to bump up that purchase price. Because at the end of the day, I want to put you in a home loan that's going to work for you for the life of that loan. And while you are in the home, you can live there comfortably. We don't want you house poor. And sometimes employing a cosigner could make that happen. Now, what happens if you don't make the mortgage payment? Your cosigner or guarantor is now liable for that payment, and it will be a missed payment is reported to the credit bureau on their credit bureau in the same way as it is reported to yours. So it will show up on both of your credit histories, and that is something that we absolutely do not want to happen. That being said, proceed with caution. Make sure you're talking to a professional. Speak to a licensed mortgage agent or broker about adding a cosigner, and make sure you have all the information up front so that you can make an informed decision. Now, another decision you're going to have to make is, will I have a cosigner or will I have a guarantor on my application with me? First of all, let's talk about who it could be. Typically, a lender wants this person to be a family member. So an immediate family member, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. I've seen instances where we have aunts and uncles or step parents who are also coming on to the mortgage application. And that's completely fine. If it is a family friend or somebody that is a little bit outside of that immediate family circle, we can absolutely find a solution for you, but it may be a little bit more tricky. So of course, whenever you're approaching your mortgage agent or broker about adding somebody as a cosigner or guarantor, do that early up front and leave yourself lots of time so you can find the right solution for you before you have to pull the trigger on that purchase. Now, these people typically have a healthy income. Doesn't have to be a ton of income, depending on how much income you need for your file. It could be a pension, CPP, OAS. It can be spousal or child support, as well as employment income or self-employment income. These all work to add to your application. The caveat is we want to make sure that this person doesn't have too much debt, because if we are adding debt to the application, the income, of course, needs to outweigh that debt. And if your cosigner or guarantor has 2 mortgages and an F-150 car loan, it probably will not help your case to add them to the application. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, do I want a cosigner or do I want a guarantor? Now, I hate to burst the bubble of many first-time homebuyers, but it is often not your choice. Oftentimes, a lender will insist that you have a cosigner on the application, which means that they appear as a co-applicant, and they will have to be on the title of your purchase, which means that they will also appear on the agreement of purchase and sale as a purchaser or a buyer. That means that they will also be on title for the property and they will be liable for that mortgage loan. There are some instances where we can have a guarantor instead of a cosigner, which means they do not appear on title. And you will also need to have some independent legal advice at closing so that everybody is aware of the legal implications of what they are signing and to make sure that everybody is comfortable moving forward. So cosigner versus guarantor, this is a conversation that you're going to have that's specific to your own mortgage file and your own situation. And if you feel very strongly about having a guarantor instead of a cosigner, there are absolutely steps you can take to strengthen your application so that that is possible. So absolutely have the conversation to get the nitty-gritty on your specific situation. Now, lastly, I do want to touch on how we get the co-borrower or cosigner or guarantor off title at renewal, or when do they come off of the mortgage? So typically, like I said, it happens at your first renewal if you can qualify for that mortgage loan alone. Or with your partner, if you have a partner who is still on title, you will have to requalify. And this is technically a refinance transaction. So there will be a small cost. You will have to pay legal fees for this to happen. And I've run into a lot of situations where folks have got their mortgage at a branch and we're told, oh no, it's super simple. We'll just take them off at your 5-year mark at maturity. And it really is not that simple. And you need to be aware and have a plan of how you're going to take your parents or whoever the cosigner is off of the mortgage when it's time. It's also important to note here that if somebody has co-signed for you, for example, mom or dad, and they want to co-sign for a brother or a sister or somebody else in your family, this is often not possible if they've already co-signed on one loan. So again, very important to understand your exit plan or the co-signer's exit plan before they sign on that dotted line and put your mortgage on and the information on their credit bureau for which they are liable. So if you want to talk a little bit more about how to take a current co-signer off of your mortgage and you have a renewal coming up, that is definitely the best time to do it. And you're going to want to get a hold of a mortgage agent or broker, or you can get a hold of me at www.recallme.com and I'll be happy to walk you through the next steps of what that looks like. So today we covered who should be a cosigner, what you should ask yourself before adding a cosigner, the difference between cosigners and guarantors, and when do we take the cosigner off the mortgage. I recognize this was really high level today, and that's because we need your specific information to make sure that the advice I'm giving will apply specifically to you. So definitely book your call if you want to talk through those options for your own purchase, and book a call if you just want to get the best first step for your home purchase coming up. Again, if you want to send me your questions, please send me a voice note to Brianna Galls and Mortgages on Instagram, and I will answer them on air in an upcoming episode. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you all next week. Thanks for listening to Homeowner AF, the Canadian first-time home buying podcast. You'll find links to everything I mentioned in today's episode in the show notes, along with details on how to connect with me. I welcome all of your first-time home buying questions. Send me a voice note to have your question featured on air. And if you're ready to talk through specifics for your first home purchase, you can book a free call at recallme.com. Remember, if home ownership is your goal, you could be closer than you think. You just need the right information to make the right move. I'll be back next week with another tidbit to help you get there.